I never grew up with educators that looked like myself. I always knew that wisdom was a powerful tool, but I also know that oftentimes we neglect it because of who it comes from.
Facts.
It's not necessarily just about being a king, it's more so about becoming a kingmaker.
Man, you got to be close enough to relate, but far enough ahead to inspire. Man, how you doing, Marcus?
Man, you already know I know, man. But I'm swell, man. It's good to be back in the presence of you, brother. It's good to be back in
Yeah,
the
man.
presence of you, my dog.
Yeah,
I
man.
know
Life,
we
life
definitely
be lifing sometimes, man. We gotta, make some
I'm
adjustments,
already
man, for
know.
sure.
I'm already knowing, man. I know we got some good life updates to catch up on, man. So tell me how you and the guys rocking, man. You and the missus breaking in a new home, man. It's a lot of good stuff going on. Talk to me.
Yeah, man. It's a lot, but I keep it brief, man.
Yeah.
Man, the guys, man. It's funny because all of us are in like this transitional portion of our
Mm-hmm.
lives.
Yeah.
Me and East got things going on with our ladies right now. Good stuff, but we got stuff going on with our ladies.
Beautiful.
Cody Chuck. Chuck actually is about to have his second kid, so that's what's up, man. Like his actual
Blessings. Blessings. Yeah.
biological kid. So man, it's just beautiful, man. And then Cody is leveling up, man. Cody like that guy that when he get attached to some information or get a hold of information, he
Mm-hmm.
runs with it and then brings it back
Mm-hmm.
to the team. Like, hey, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So man, he
Yeah.
got some of the guys tapped into some dope investments, man. That's multiplying our income. So man, it's always beautiful, man. But on the home side, man, always a character building opportunity, man.
Talk to
Bro,
me.
we've been in the crib 3 months, man, and we didn't had this persisting issue with water, man. Kind of getting into our basement, and we now know exactly what the cause is. But the reason it's character building, man, is because it's some I told you so's going back and forth between me and my lady, because some on her part, some on mine. But
Yeah.
it's one of those things where like being a new homeowner, there's this anxiety that comes with when a problem arises. And
Mm-hmm.
you know me, man, I'm like the coolest, calmest guy in the world. So I'm like, man, we gonna figure it out. It ain't that big a deal. But she, no, water is all this and all that. So we made some rash decisions. But in those different decisions, we definitely, bumped our head, spent some bread. But it's beautiful that now we kind of understand how our house works and what needs to be done. So we on the up and up, man. So I'm proud of that, but I'm excited to kind of get past this so we could kind of like thoroughly enjoy the crib. So come
Yeah. Yeah.
summertime 2026, man, we gonna start opening the house to the friends and family.
Beautiful, beautiful. I
Yeah.
love it, man. Yeah, that fine. That's the fine print. They don't always tell you, man. They come with it. Everybody, I always talk to my peoples, man. They want the crib, like, man. It's a lot to come with this, my boy. I promise you.
100%.
So,
100%.
blessings, man. On my end, man, a lot of good moving pieces, man. A bunch of proposals coming down the pipeline, man.
Yeah.
Expansion across the board for the Roots team, man. Adding another university or two. So
Okay.
beyond appreciative, man, of just the work, man. Even today, I just found myself just smiling, like, wow, that the work. Um, there's a reason why. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you find yourself scratching your head like, is everything I'm doing really worthwhile? We really making change? And obviously you see
Yeah.
it on a smaller scale, but when you see things on a larger scale or get a bunch of testimonies or just random youngins texting you all on the same day, it's like, this is where I need to be. On another note, man, I actually had an opportunity to go back home previous week and man actually got an award at the YMI, which is a pretty predominant historical site in Asheville, North Carolina, where I'm from, man. Coming to find out, one of my great uncles was actually one of the first black pharmacists there, man. It used to be a
Hmm.
drugstore. So
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
historical moment, man. Was beyond appreciative to share that moment with Avery, my wife, my parents. And then last but not least, man, we are on the second to last semester with this master. So I am lit.
Hey,
I am
hold on. You
ecstatic.
already know we gotta. You know what? Hey, man, I know what that
Yeah,
master's been
man.
doing to you, man. So,
I
hey,
promise you.
shout out to you. Shout out to you.
I'm over here looking like a clown, juggling a little bit of everything, man. But hey,
Yeah,
we pushing
yeah,
through. We are enduring, man. We are
yeah.
enduring. So definitely in a great phase. And to your point, man, been in a very reflective state at 30, man. Birthday is next week. So for
Okay.
me, it's just like, here we go. Here we
Yeah,
go. Boy, I
yeah.
caught a cramp this morning, boy, and was like, get ready for it,
Hey
right?
man, I'm gonna need you to stop talking about 30 like it's old, man. It's not old, man. It's
Man.
it's ripe. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
now
That
you
I
at
like that.
you know
I
what I'm
like
saying?
that.
You at the perfect time, man. You at the perfect time. But man, kind of
Let's
joking
go.
but serious, man. I see you with a lot of like nice cut. I don't know if it's custom or not, but it looked pretty custom, man. That blazer you had on, or it might have been a tuxedo, but for
Yeah,
the when you
yeah.
got honored, man, that joint was nice, man. Man, you got to hook your brother up.
Man, listen. And any of my close knit circle, I'm an advocate of rose. And by rose,
Okay.
I mean Ross. Pull up to Ross for the
Ah.
low. Look, we need that sponsorship. Tap in with the Let's Grow Together family, Ross. But I'm a huge advocate of rose. And I got a couple of people that know how I move, how I operate, and what I like. They're like, hey Mark, this your size? Yep, let me
Yeah.
get that. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Rose show love.
For sure, for sure, for sure. That's love, man. But hey, man, shout out to you, man. All the work y'all doing at Roots, man. I, would love to continue to have this discussion, man. But we got a dope guest, man.
Yeah,
Uh,
man.
Marcus, go ahead and introduce our brother for us.
Yeah, man. So we have a phenomenal individual who is really thriving across a couple of different arenas. And this is the reason I was so passionate about having this conversation with him. When we first connected, man, he just left a huge impression on not only him, his children. And I
Mm-hmm.
think children are a huge testimony of their parents, those who came before them. I got introduced to Mr. Chad, and man, in the midst, his son ended up dominating the conversation. I was like, whoa, like, this young man is not the average young man. You have done a
Yeah,
great job
yeah.
as a father, man. So would love to pick your brain on some of those things, man. So without further ado, we have my brother, Mr. Chad, joining us today, man. What's going on, Chad?
How's it going, fellas?
Man, feeling good, brother.
All
It's
is
a
well.
pleasure to have you. Pleasure to have you.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Pleasure
sir.
to be
Yes,
on.
sir.
I appreciate the invite, and it's greatly it means something, and I do appreciate that.
Beautiful, beautiful, man. Well, Chad, man, for the people who don't know about yourself, like we said, man, you are a very well versed individual, man. But I know first and foremost, you are a follower of Christ, and that is something you are
Yes.
gonna candidly share with everybody. You love Him with all your heart, and that was one thing I really loved about your story and your journey, as we talked briefly as well, man. Can you just share a little bit of insight just regarding like a pivotal moment where you first accepted Christ and how He's played a huge role in your life?
So I grew up kind of standard Christian church. It's a Seventh Day Baptist, which is most people don't have never heard of Seventh Day Baptist. They're like Seventh Day Adventist, and I'm like, no, it's Baptist. So
Mm-hmm.
it's your pretty standard Baptist church, right? My grandparents were members of the church, and my parents were members of the church, and I was there every Saturday because it's Sabbath keeping Baptist church, and so I was there every Saturday, and we were there for Wednesday night services, and whenever I did sports, obviously church had to take precedence over the sports, so I couldn't play on Wednesdays. I'd had to go to church on Wednesdays, and then service would take precedence over games. So if we had like a morning game on Saturday for basketball, I wasn't able to participate. I have to wait till that afternoon. But I was always a very, very inquisitive kid. I did not accept a basic answer for anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I was constantly challenging my parents and my grandparents and people in the church, and I was asking questions that typical children should not ask about the Lord and what it meant and what the scripture was saying. And I had a pastor at church camp whenever I was 12 that accepted questions like that. Because
Mm-hmm.
typically in church, especially when you deal with young kids, they keep it on a very surface level. You color pictures and you learn songs, and you never get the actual deep theology and doctrine behind it. And that's what I wanted to know. I
Yeah,
wanted to know,
yeah.
like, not what you believe, but like, why do we believe what we
Yeah,
believe?
definitely. Hmm.
And his name was Pastor Randall Van Horn, and we were going over, and it's kind of funny. It's John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. And to me, it just kind of clicked, and I was like, "Do you mean to tell me that like I can spend eternity with God and find out everything?" because I just wanted to know like why things work. And
Mhm.
so that got my mind just spinning and spinning and spinning. And I was like, this is what I want to do. I want knowledge. I want to know about everything around me. I want to know like why it happens, right? Not just the fact that it is, but like what makes it do that. And you find that in scripture. I mean, he is the creator of all things. And to be able to have that relationship with God and to be able to understand why we feel the way that we feel, why things occur in the world, why does evil exist? What is our purpose here on life? And all of those answers come from scripture. And so at an early age, I was just dived right in and I felt a calling at a very young age to get into ministry. And so whenever I got started with that, I started teaching classes at my Sabbath school. I started doing sermons at the church, just really in depth. And I probably read the Bible at least 3 or 4 times in that first couple years that I was saved from like 12 to 14, which most people, unfortunately, will spend their entire life and never read the entire
Yeah.
Protestant canonical Bible.
Hmm.
Um, but with that and getting that in depth with it and wanting to know those answers, you get a lot more questions.
Mhm.
So as I progressed, I wanted to know more and more, and there just wasn't anybody there discipling me. They weren't getting involved with me and really walking with me hand in hand to step me through that process. And so when I work with youth nowadays, because I'm in youth ministry at our church in Spring Lake, we really go into a discipleship driven program with the kids. You know,
Yeah.
we get into apologetics with them, how to explain, the existence of God and what it means to be fully man and fully God. The Trinitarian, what the Trinity actually means and how that works. Factual historical evidence for Christ. There's 2,000 times more documents that document Christ's life versus any other historical figure throughout history.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we go through those types of things, but understanding like what it means to actually be a servant of God and to submit your full trust in Him, because that's what it means to be a believer. It's trusting in God,
Yeah.
because faith is not blind. Faith is something that you know of.
Yeah.
And so when you know him, that's how you develop with it. So that's what we emphasize with the kids is really understanding why. And it's not an easy road to go down there, but Christ doesn't promise us that it's easy. He actually
Yeah.
tells us the exact opposite, that it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
But his yoke is easy because he handles it for us.
Yeah. So Chad, man, I appreciate that because me and Marcus talk about this all the time. I'm on this faith journey now, and you just said something that spoke to me because I was also an inquisitive kid. I like how you said that. I wouldn't even have said inquisitive. I just would like always challenge people because I always like to ask questions. I wanted to have a deeper understanding of why things work, and it wasn't just in a spiritual sense, but just in everything because I just couldn't accept basically, oh, this is why things are, or this is how things should
Right.
go, things like that. But you mentioned that during your early life and your journey in the church, you didn't have anybody that was discipling you. So,
Mm-mm.
like, how did you become more aware and get those answers that you sought? Like, did you just dive deeper into the word? Did you, go to other places? Like, how did you actually kind of close the gap on, that curiosity that you had?
So I did a lot of myself. I mean, I dove deeper into the word and then I
Hmm.
seeked out. And of course, at that time, this is early 90s.
Yeah.
So the internet was very new. So there wasn't an easy access to it.
Hmm.
So I would listen to radio broadcasts.
Hmm.
One of the early people that I listened to was Bob Larson. And he was I wouldn't say an exorcist, but he
Hmm.
delved more into the spiritual realm, which is what is more real, right?
Yeah.
That is the actual reality that we live in is the spiritual world. We're so caught up in our physical selves, but the real reality is our eternal existence.
Hmm.
And whether that eternal existence is with Christ and in worshiping and living in Him and in the new Eden, or it's eternal damnation. I mean, that's the only two end results that all of us can have.
Yeah.
And so when you do it on your own, especially at a younger age, and you don't have someone guiding you, you can get misled very easily.
Hmm.
And you can
Mm-hmm.
go down rabbit holes that are just not based in scripture because you're just eager for information.
Yeah.
And so you need someone to guide them, you know, and that's what Jesus did with his disciples. I mean, as most of people are unaware of, all of the disciples except for Peter were teenagers.
Mm.
You know,
Hmm.
like whenever they had to pay the temple tax, the only two people that had to pay the temple tax was Peter and Jesus, and the temple tax was only charged to men of family age.
Mm.
So that in itself tells us how young they were, and that's why I believe that Jesus chose teenagers because they're the ones that are eager. That's the age that you want to know why, right? Like
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
remembers when they were in middle school, right? Like you're figuring out the world, and your parents can tell you anything. You're like, oh, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing because you're actually thinking for once in your life. You're not just listening. But you need a mentor. You need someone to disciple you through that time period because you can go on a path that just leads you down a long journey that's hard to come back from.
Yeah.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
I would agree, man. I think that's the most malleable, stage for a young man, young woman at that point in time. To your point, there's a lot of external influences, but it's a lot of self talk and really
Yeah,
defining, what you're going to be, what you're going to look like going forward as well too. I really
absolutely.
want to give you props because I believe inquisitive kids make the best mentors, right? As
Yeah.
they get older,
Absolutely.
because
Right.
they have a very open, introspective perspective, but they're not afraid to ask those questions. They're not
Mm-hmm.
afraid to engage, to get out of their box, right? There's no ceilings to an
Right.
extent. And that's really what we preach across the board too with what we do. So I really admire that. I think that is probably one of the biggest things that stood out to me when we had the opportunity to engage. I was like, he is not, it's not just black and white, right? You're exploring the gray, you're
Right.
exploring a little bit of all
Yeah.
those areas.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And oftentimes there's different sides that are polarized opposed to the other because they don't ever see, in between as well too.
Yeah.
So definitely
Right.
I think the world would be a better place if we explored that, put our toe in a little bit of both sides to be able to see from the other person's lens. But I want to shift a little bit as we talk
Okay.
about kind of the other lens. I know you originally were coming out of North Carolina from a tattoo artist perspective, right? And I
Yeah.
know
Absolutely.
traditionally growing up, the tattoo artist and the pastor are in two different arenas as well,
Yeah.
too, right? So I would
Right.
love to talk a little bit about that and how those kind of came to be uniform for you as well.
So it kind of goes back to the reason why I wasn't discipled. I mean, the evangelical church in the last 60 years has turned into the original church that we saw in the Bible, right? I mean, Jesus taught against the traditions, and that's what they taught the Pharisees and Sadducees was the traditions of the Jews, not what the scripture actually said.
Mm.
You know, just to bring up tattoos, you know, a lot of people come back to Leviticus and they're like, hey, you cannot mark your body like this. That's, against the Mosaic law. And what the context of that is talking about was there was pagan cultures around there that would cut themselves as a means of worshiping their God.
Yeah.
When you get a tattoo, you're not cutting yourself as a means to worship a deity, right? You're expressing yourself as you would with the dress that you have with a nice rosé jacket, right? You know, or your ladies
Mhm.
like to wear makeup and
Yeah,
to make themselves look
yeah.
attractive to you because you are their better half, correct? Right?
Yeah.
Like you are working together as one unit, and that's what it is. And the tattoo side is an art form, and a lot of times in the religious realm, we disregard art,
Mm.
but God made these things, and when God
Yeah.
made these things, they are good. Like we should read poetry and discuss philosophy and do art and create things because we come from a creator and we are made in his image. That's what he wants us to do.
Yeah.
So to me, that just made sense,
Yeah.
right? Like, how can I express myself and help people express themselves and what they're going through? Because that's what getting a tattoo is. It's making a permanent mark on your body to represent a phase of your life that you're going through. right?
Yeah.
Like even at the most um, superficial level, right? Like we, I went to school at WVU, and at WVU was one of where the tattoo studios that I did my training at, right? And so we would have a lot of college kids that would come to get tattoos, right? And so you'd have like a group of sorority girls, like 10 of them, right? And they'd come in and get this like $40 stupid little, you know, image tiny tattoo because they were all doing it because that was their group.
Yeah.
But that's why they were doing it, because they were celebrating
Mm-hmm.
this clique and this clan and this series of their life, right? And then as you get older, people will get things. Hey, I had some kids, so I want to get a tattoo to represent their birth or what they mean to me, right?
Yeah.
Or you'll get people that will go in and they want to get something like Japanese, like koi fish, and that type of tattoo style represents a lot of spiritual struggles that people go through. So to me, it just made perfect sense that I could help people express what they were seeing in life, and to do it from a perspective that was genuine and for the client, right? You know, like in the studios I work in, we didn't do tattoos in inappropriate places of the body, right?
Yeah.
You know, we didn't like not your typical stereotypical tattoos. Like it was like, hey, and I wouldn't do any tattoos that were demonic or satanic in the sense of that, right? You know, and I would talk with the clients about like, why do you want to get this tattoo,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, let's get something to represent who you really are and what the stage is, because a lot of times they bring in like something kind of silly or whatever, and I'm like, well, let's create something. And
Yeah.
so the studio that I ran was a completely custom studio. Like we had no flash. There wasn't anything for you to pick out. You came in, I sat down with you, and we discussed your life, what
Yeah.
you wanted, and then we figured out a style, and then we would do it from there. And so
That's
I,
dope.
I
that's
I can appreciate that,
it's
Chad.
a form of
There,
ministry, right? I mean,
yeah, I can't tell
yeah.
you how many people I cross paths with. I see their tat. I'm like, hey, like, what does that mean? And I was like, man, I got drunk one night, and I'm like, nah, that ain't it. That ain't
Yeah. Yeah.
it. So I
that,
Yeah.
appreciate
that could have been the case for some. I mean, there's different, but it, as a general rule, that's not the case.
Yeah. Now don't get me wrong. I got a couple tattoos. I'm like, wow. I don't know what I was thinking about that, right? But
Right.
I love what you were just talking about. One, you talked about doing the custom tattoo, not having any like stencil or any images for people to pick
Hmm.
from. But I even love the fact that you're sitting having a conversation about life with them, so that whatever it is that you guys create is like super authentic to who they are in this
that.
moment. And I also love you
Absolutely.
said it's a representation of them at a point in time, right? Because
Hmm.
I'd literally just say like, man, I'll look back like, why did I get this? But at that time, it was probably
Hmm.
a great decision. I want
And
to
I
talk.
bet that when
Yeah,
you
yeah.
look at that, you can tell exactly what was going on in your life. Like you could tell a
Mm-hmm.
story about what was happening in your life at that phase
Yeah,
just by looking at the tattoo on your body, where you
yeah,
were, what you were doing, who were
for
your
sure.
friends. Absolutely.
And me and Marcus, we talked about this before, man. I got strength and faith in Chinese on my wrist, and I got those when I was like 15, 16, 17, somewhere
Yep.
around that time. And at
Right.
the time, just being honest, Chad, they were random things. It looked cool. I was like, oh, it's red and black.
Yep.
Strength
Yeah.
sounds cool. Faith sounds cool. But let me tell you something powerful, right? About 5, 6 years later, I'm in college and I see a Stephen Curry commercial. And
Okay.
it says charged by belief. I was like, oh man, that's dope. Like, that's super dope. I kind of stole that and I created a personal brand called Powered by Belief. Now, let's fast forward another like 5 years, and I don't know what I was doing, but I'm looking at my arms and I'm just like, wait a minute. Strength, faith, power, belief.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's no freaking way. I'm like, there's no freaking way. Cause I'm like, I got the tattoos before I even started the brand. And so I'm like,
Yeah.
there was some type of cosmic energy,
Hmm.
divine energy that went into me getting those tattoos at that moment. So, I just felt the need to share that. But it's something I want to talk about because again, I'm going through this journey of reading the Bible. I actually got my Bible right here with me. It's always near. But so I talk to many people, and they will say they've never read it from end to end. And I'm
Hmm.
literally going through every chapter, and I'm not gonna lie. Some chapters are more I don't want to say entertaining, but some I could get into more than others. Like I'm at Chronicles
Absolutely.
2 right now. And I'm like, you're really
Mm.
just repeating some of the stuff that happened. But I think something that helped me in this journey of reading it was like when I read about Adam and read about Abraham and I read about Jacob and I read about all of these great men, Noah, just to name a few. I see myself in those characters, right? At different stages of my
Absolutely.
life. And I think what's interesting, and I want to ask you this, um, as a young kid, is that the same process when you're reading the Bible? Is like, do you see yourself? Because you haven't really lived enough life to kind of experience some of the things that they went through. But it's like, when you're reading it, is it just a genuine interest of like, man, how did these guys get through this? Or is it like, I see myself in that good man?
I think that all people at all ages, that's how we live through life, is associating ourselves with different people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can try to make your own way and try to make your own claim and try to put yourself out there,
Mm-hmm.
but you're only trying to mirror other people.
Hmm.
That's real.
It's whoever's influenced you, right?
That's
And
real.
so that's how you connect. It's like whenever you're trying to tell a story to somebody, and what is their first response? They want to tell you a similar story that happened to
Yep.
them.
That's real. That's real.
Every time, right? Most people are terrible listeners.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
But there's a reason that every person in the entire scripture is set up with characters, because that's
Mm-hmm.
how God knows we work as humans. If you can't associate with someone and what they're going through, it's not going to help you through that phase.
Yeah.
That's why a person's personal testimony is most times more significant than trying to explain the Bible to a person.
That's
You
real.
know, what happened in your life that brought faith into it? When did you realize that you needed a savior? When did you
Hmm.
realize that you can't do this? Someone has to do this for you, and that person is Christ.
That's good.
Spot on, spot on. I want to shift a little bit, man. I know your tribe, your community, your family is a huge element
Mm.
of yourself, your personal story. Um, all the above, man. You have done a phenomenal job when it comes to the young man that I was able to meet, man. He definitely
Uh,
left a huge impression on me, man. And I want to kind of shift for those who may be young fathers or looking forward to being a father as well, too, right? How have you leveraged your life experiences, your intuitive nature to be the best father for him? And again, I know he was homeschooled too. uh,
yep.
I'll be
Mhm.
candid, right? When I think about most homeschool kids, I do not think about your child at all. and
No,
and I love that because there's a huge sense of freedom that you permitted, but there was also a strong sense of education, but learned experience in real life, right?
yep.
I didn't
Mhm.
really see a lot of boundaries, a lot of parameters. And I think that is
Mhm.
the phenomenal part of the homeschooling that most people really don't get, where they just might be missing that.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about your philosophy, you and your wife's kind of principles that laid the foundation of how you all were able to develop them from a homeschool perspective?
Yeah, so when we decided to start homeschooling our kids, Sebastian was in seventh grade, which is the older one. That's when you met when we lived
Hmm.
over there. And then Shia is 3 years younger, so he was in third grade when we started with it. We had moved down to North
Hold on, hold on.
Carolina,
I want,
and
I want, I want,
yep,
I want to interject real quick. So they were already exposed to the traditional school system
yes,
before you even
hmm
plugged them in. So there
Mm.
was different
yes,
things that there was probably some learning and unlearning prior to this. So I just want to point that out for our listeners.
yep. And I'm glad you mentioned unlearning, because that's the philosophy that we had with our homeschooling,
Yeah.
right? And so it's called unlearning. And in typical school, the whole system is like memorization,
Hmm.
this test
Yep.
and this standard. But it goes back to the whole thing that we talked about with me seeking God, was I needed to know why,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And so that's what the philosophy that me and my wife sat down with before we decided to take them out of the public school system was like, why are we doing this? right? And we're like, well, because we want them to understand how to be fluid in life, right? We didn't want them to stick to a rigid standard, and the standard that was being taught in the school was not what our standard was to start with,
Yeah.
right? As far as
Mm-hmm.
cultural and the way that they were taught at all. Um, and so, how do you do this? And so we sat down with the boys before we started their curriculums, and we're like, you know, you don't have to make this decision, but like, what interests you? Like, what do you like, right? Like, do you like computers? Do you like, um, you know, figuring out how to make things work? You know, working with your hands? Like, what do you like to do? And so they chose a couple items, and then we focused their main schooling on that, and then supplemented that with things like reading and math and philosophy and history, because they're both my boys are huge history buffs,
Yeah.
which is great. I think everyone should like history because it helps with a lot of issues that we have,
One
just
hundred
understanding what
percent.
actually happened before. But then through that, and I was raised to see examples and to follow them. Like my dad was a really good role model to me when I was younger, and he gave me a certain amount of freedom, and that's what we wanted to do with our boys, right? Show them that, this is how things work. This is what you need to do to try to make it happen. And then we would put them in situations where they had to figure things out, but with the
Mm-hmm.
safety net of being that we were there to correct it if it was wrong. And that's how we raised them. And that's what we taught with our homeschooling, was to just get them to be able to operate in society and to like operate in any situation that they were put into, right? Um, because if you know how things work and why things work, then it's easier for you to learn new techniques and new skills, and you could succeed at whatever you wanted to do
Yeah.
as long as you have that basis.
Yeah. And I think all everything you're saying is in line with like the philosophy that you live by, because I'm just thinking about a traditional schooling, you know what I mean? And asking certain questions, you will be looked at kind of crazy, or they'll say you're
Yep.
being disruptive,
Absolutely.
you're
Absolutely.
being combative, and it's like, no, I'm just genuinely curious. Why do you think this is the case? Um,
Yeah.
it because it makes me think about when I was in high school and there was this trend about using the word valid, like, oh man, that's valid, that car is valid, or whatever, right? And
Right.
I adopted that, and I went to school one day, and my English teacher was like, "You're using that incorrectly," and all this stuff, and I'm just like, "But I'm not though." I'm like, "I'm truly not." And
Right.
so, of course, I challenged her, and I found myself in the dean's office, and then I
Oh,
look
shoot.
back on that now, and how valid it's been used throughout time since then. I'm like, she owes me
Uh-huh.
an apology. You know what I mean?
Right.
But of course,
Absolutely.
but I'm not looking for that. But I'm just like, I love how you talk about, taking them out, allowing them to unlearn, asking them what their interests are. I think that is
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
one of the most
That's where it
important
starts.
aspects of all of
Mm-hmm.
homeschooling is like, yeah, you got to know math, you got to know history, you definitely got to know how to read, right? But it's like
Right.
that stuff comes secondary
You
to
have
like,
to
what do
function in
you,
society.
100%.
Yeah.
But it's like within functioning in society, what's important to you, right? Not what's
Mhm.
important to dad, not what's important to mom, not granddad, whoever. It's like what's important to you, because you will get a much greater thrill out of life when you focus on that. And again, I want you to still focus on the other stuff so that you can, be a sensible human being. But what's important to you? Because I know that'll drive them, further to achieve. But I want to,
James, can I
yeah,
can
yeah.
I chime in real quick for
Oh,
you?
for sure, for sure.
I think the biggest piece is asking that as a foundational element early on, right?
Yeah,
They were in
Absolutely.
elementary, they were in middle school, and you're asking, what do you enjoy? We
yeah,
don't really
Hmm.
ask that till you get ready to think about college. What do you want to major in? What do you really
Right.
like? And by
yeah,
that time, we're in such a hypnotic rhythm or a robotic stage where it's like, oh, well,
Yeah.
I just want to make the most money, or
yeah,
I just want to. And I've seen so many college students, mentees, mentors, like, I thought I really liked this, but it was just because everybody around me wanted me to like that, right?
yeah,
But you
Right.
changed that paradigm early, and that was the biggest aha eureka moment I had kind of in talking to you as well too. So
yeah.
my bad,
Yeah.
Jamie. Definitely
No,
had to throw that in there
yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
that
But
made a big
but
difference.
think about what you're saying, Marcus, because it's right in line with what Chad said earlier. Is that we live our lives trying to
Mm-hmm.
impersonate essentially someone
One hundred
else,
percent.
right? So if like our
Mm-hmm.
parent
Right.
is telling us that, hey, I'm a lawyer, lawyers make good money, you probably should follow law, right? Or if your
Hmm.
dad was a carpenter and he worked with his hands, you'll probably think, oh, I got to do something to work with my hands.
Hmm.
Or if your dad was an entrepreneur, the examples can go on and on. But I like what Chad is doing because he was creating free thinkers, like people to
Yes.
assess and say what really makes sense to me. Like, of course, being inquisitive, asking those questions, but having in the
Hmm.
back of their mind, like, what is truly important to me. And part of the reason why I've chosen to like mentor youth, like I work with some adults and college students, but the reason that I like middle school and high school is that it is much easier to help build up a young person that is still trying to figure out what their identity is versus trying
Hmm.
to change somebody who is stuck in their ways and have built this paradigm and lived this life and have kind of been has this, for lack of a better word, this poverty kind of mindset. Like it's a
Yep.
scarcity, and so but the question I was gonna ask for you, because in doing some of the research for our questions, I found out that you lost your father at a very early age, and so I'm
Yes.
interested in knowing, one, what was that impact on you, but how did that also play into the type of father that you are for your children?
So, so I was 22 when he died,
Okay,
and he was 39.
mm,
And me and my dad were very, very close. You
gotcha.
know, he was young enough that like because we grew up in the Nintendo era, right? So
Okay,
like
yeah, yeah,
when
yeah.
Nintendo first came out on March 10th in 1987, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think like we sat out in front of Hills Plaza at like midnight to wait for the truck to come in so we could buy
Yeah,
one together. That's what we
yeah,
did, right?
yeah,
Um, and we fished together, we hunted together, we spent all of our time together.
yeah,
And one thing that my dad did to me when I was younger was he would invite me into our conversations with like my uncles and the older people in our family. Like he would let me sit in and listen and actually like speak with them and like go with ideas and to figure out, okay, why this happens. Could go with my inquisitive. He knew what my inquisitive nature was, and so
yeah.
he invited me into those situations to allow me to partake of it and to get that. Um, but when my dad died, he was such a pivotal role in many people in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents were a younger couple when they got together. That it destroyed my mom. It destroyed my uncle, who was very, very close to him. Um, it destroyed my grandparents. That was their baby, and that was the first one of
Mm-hmm.
their kids to die. Was their youngest.
Mm,
Um, and so I had to step up in that role and help plan the funeral and to get all of those things together for my dad. And
mm-hmm.
so it took me about 3 or 4 years to even be able to mourn his loss.
Mm,
Just dealing with my younger brother, who was a teenager when he died, and helping him kind of get and cope through that. Um, and so it made me want to spend more time with my kids and to make sure that every moment that I have, like, because being a self-employed person throughout my entire life, you get caught up in your work, you get
yeah,
caught up in your business, and a lot of people decide, like, hey, I'm going to work till 10 o'clock every night, and then I'm working weekends, and I'm like going to this business trip, and like, because I'm trying to provide for my family, but you're not providing for them forever because you're not giving them your personal time because that's the only
yeah,
thing they remember.
yeah,
And so if you're in work and they ask you a question, stop what you're doing and step away from that. And that's what I've done and been like, what do you need? Right? Like as soon as I get home from work or out doing the job, I'll spend 10, 15, 20 minutes before I do anything else, even though I know I've got lots of paperwork to do that night, right? And catching up and putting invoices out and all that. Just spend the time with them. And every night we sit down for dinner as a family. We still do this, you know, regardless of what's going on. Sometimes it's at the coffee table, but we'll watch a movie together, but we're still eating as a family. No
yeah,
one gets their plates and separates. And so, because I didn't get to have that moment of having my dad there as a father,
mm-hmm.
I just try to remember what he did with me and to do that to a more full degree with my kids.
Gotcha.
I love that. I love that, man. You do a phenomenal job with balancing traditional and untraditional,
Mhm.
in
It's
a great route, man. A lot of people might
yeah.
look at it as a little bit chaotic, but again, it works
Hmm.
for you because that is you being true to yourself. I always talk about how my talking with my father, and when I spent some time with him and his brothers, I chimed in. I told the uncle I didn't like him, and I almost got in trouble for it. Before I got popped, literally, my dad's brothers put their arm around him. Was like, "Don't pop him." He was telling you how he
Yeah.
feels. He was being transparent.
Right.
He did not
Hmm.
say it in a disrespectful light. If you pop him, you're gonna teach him that he can't speak his truth, and that is
Right.
a foundational element of how I raised Avery, of how I operate across the board. So those little
Hmm.
small moments are huge, man. And you did a great job capturing that as well. Before we close out, I would
Yeah.
be doing a disservice if we didn't spotlight the business that you have helped develop for your sons as well. I know this is a true passion of you all's. You all do some
Yes,
phenomenal work. So we always love to
appreciate it.
plug in our guests as well too, man. Can you tell a little bit
Yep.
about the business that you have again that is your son's business that you are working to develop
Yes.
for them,
Mhm.
and where people can tap in with you to learn a little bit more or even support some of the work that you do as well.
Absolutely. So the name of the company is Randolph Brothers Creations. And so we integrate my carpentry skills and electrical experience into one product. So what we try to focus on is custom designed mantelpieces for like your
Okay.
fireplace or a custom built-in inside your closet or your living or your study area that incorporates a lot of lighting aspects and architectural designs that fit who the person is and like what their um, kind of like the tattoo art, right? So putting their life and them thing to it versus like, oh, this is something cool that I saw on Pinterest and I would like to have that. Like, okay, but what makes sense to you and like what is going to look good for your family and your
Hmm.
house and fit those dimes. And since we are a electrically licensed company, we can do all of the electrical work in house with it, you know. So we don't have to subcontract out anything. We focus on one project at a time. We don't do 10 different clients at once. We do one client until that job is finished. So we can actually treat the client like they're our only client,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And so they get a lot of one on one focus with that. We do have a website. It's www.randolphbrotherscreations.com. We also have a Facebook page, which is www.facebook.com/Randolph Brothers Creations. We don't have anything on Instagram or Twitter or TikTok like that, but I think that's probably something we should probably look into because that type of advertising is really good for businesses nowadays, especially with the AI systems.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So I got a question. So, because I kind of heard the electrical portion of it. So, is it just for people local to you guys, or if let's say I wanted to get a custom piece, to put up somewhere, could I order that from your website, or would it have to be in person?
We could discuss it through email and then we
Okay.
could go through those aspects of it. Now, as far as actually getting the electrical portion done, we're not licensed in Illinois,
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah, yeah,
we
yeah.
couldn't do the electrical portion, but we could prefab some information and build the manuals and the things and set that up so that you could kind of plug and play it yourself.
Got
Yes.
you, got you, got you. Because I'm like, I heard what you said, and I'm like, I got some ideas for some stuff. So I'm like, I know it's probably some
Yeah.
people out there in the world that's thinking the same thing, but that's dope, man. And I love the synergy because it's like, hey, you got your sons that from a young age you ask, what are you guys interested in? It's funny because you kind of told us, a little bit before you even explained it. You said, hey, do you like working with your hands? Do you like understanding how things work? And then look,
Right.
here you guys are tying all those things together beautifully, man.
Mhm.
Hmm.
But as we close out, like, do you have any parting words for our listeners? If they're struggling with something in their life or they're thinking about, dedicating their life to Christ, like what is something that, you would leave with our listeners today?
Um, Christ is King. He is our Lord and Savior, and He can get you through anything that you're going through. And the main thing that I would want to tell people is there's somebody close to you that will listen. Don't be afraid to reach out to
Mhm.
someone. Absolutely. There is someone that is, and you might not even realize who that person is, but don't feel like you can't talk to someone.
Yeah.
Get it out there. Let them know what you're going through. And the right person will hear it and respond and help you with it. And that will be that person that is driven by Christ's love, will be the one to help you out with that.
That's good.
Blessings, blessings, man. Well, thank you again, Chad, for blessing
Absolutely.
the podcast. So we appreciate y'all. Y'all go tap in. Y'all got his information. Go support him. You're gonna see some phenomenal work across the board, man. But until next time, let's grow together, family. We will see y'all soon. Be blessed.
Peace,
Appreciate y'all.
peace.
Thank you.
We don't climb alone, we rise in weather. Every seed we plant, let's grow together. Truth in the soil, faith in the roots. Different paths, same table, same truth. Real conversations, watering souls. No cloud chasing, just taking control. Pain to purpose, lessons we share. If you still listening, you meant to be here. Apply what you heard. Reflect, move different. Until next time, let's grow together.